You think you know what a heart attack is, right? It's a problem with the heart. Simple. But what if I told you that a huge part of the long-term damage, the very thing that decides how well you recover, is actually controlled by your brain? Yeah, we're about to dive into some incredible new research that's flipping everything we thought we knew about heart attacks completely on its head. Okay, so let's start with this question. Imagine your heart is like a fortress that's suddenly been breached. It sends out a desperate emergency call for help to its command center, the brain. But what if the brain, in a total panic, sends back the wrong kind of army, an army that, instead of helping, actually starts tearing the fortress down from the inside? That is the wild and dangerous situation we're going to unravel.
You see, a heart attack isn't just a one-and-done event. It's really just the first shot in a much bigger battle. The body's natural reaction is to rush in and start cleaning up the damage, which sounds good, but sometimes that response is way too aggressive. It's like sending in a wrecking ball when you just needed a cleanup crew. This friendly fire from our own immune system is what can lead to chronic inflammation and long-term heart failure.
So how in the world does this happen? Well, to understand it, we've got to tap into the secret communication line running between the heart and the brain. And it's not a one-way street, not at all. It's a constant, high-speed conversation happening every second of our lives.
This whole network has a name, the heart-brain axis. You can think of it like the body's internal internet, this complex web of nerves and hormones that lets the brain and heart talk to each other. Under normal circumstances, it's a beautifully regulated system, but after something like a heart attack, it can go haywire.
And here's the basics of how it works. Step 1, the heart sends a message upstairs to the brain saying, "Hey, we have a problem down here." Step 2, the brain processes that and sends a command signal back down with instructions. Simple enough, right? But what happens if those instructions are totally wrong?
For years, scientists were stumped. They could see that the brain's response was off, but they couldn't figure out why or how. Well, now, they've finally identified the messenger, the one sending the bad intel. Let's take a look.
It turns out, a very specific group of nerve cells right there in the injured heart are responsible. They send what can only be described as a panic signal up to the brain. It's not just a call for help, it's a full-on, hair-on-fire, catastrophic scream.
And here they are. Researchers were able to identify the exact culprits. They're a subset of neurons called TRPV1-positive vagal sensory neurons. And get this, after a heart attack, these specific panic-inducing nerves actually start to grow and multiply. They expand their network, making the problem even worse over time. So what happens when the brain receives this panicked, screaming message? It kicks off a chain reaction of destruction. It creates this vicious, self-perpetuating loop where the body's attempt to help just keeps making things worse.
All right, let's walk through this harmful feedback loop. First, the heart injury triggers those panic neurons. Second, the brain gets the signal and completely overreacts, hitting the big red fight-or-flight button. Third, this floods the heart with inflammatory chemicals. And fourth, and this is key, that flood of inflammation calls in the absolute wrong kind of immune cells for the job, which just compounds the damage.
Now, our immune system has these amazing cleanup cells called macrophages, but there are two main types, and you can think of them as the demolition crew and the repair crew. In a healthy response, you need both working in balance, but in this flawed panic response, that balance gets dangerously thrown way off.
As you can see here, the inflammatory M1 macrophages are our demolition crew. They're pro-inflammatory and they're great at clearing out dead and damaged cells, but they can also be pretty destructive. On the other side, you have the reparative M2 macrophages, the repair crew. They're anti-inflammatory and focus on healing and rebuilding. In this harmful loop, the demolition crew is completely dominant while the repair crew gets sidelined.
So the result is just chaos. The heart is swarming with a demolition crew that just keeps tearing things down, long after their initial job is done. And there's almost no repair crew on site to start rebuilding. The heart is literally being prevented from healing itself by its own immune system.
But here is the amazing part of this story. Now that we know exactly what the problem is, this faulty communication, we can actually start to fix it. Scientists are developing some incredible new ways to essentially rewire this whole process, turning that destructive cycle into a powerful healing one.
And there are two main strategies they're working on. First, they can silence that initial panic signal right at the source, basically telling those overactive nerves to just calm down. The second approach is to use new therapies to help healthy nerves regrow, restoring the proper, balanced communication lines.
And the results are just staggering. Look at this chart. In an untreated heart,
You see the demolition crew, the M1s, are totally in charge, about 75%. But in a treated heart, they flip the switch. The repair crew, the M2s, are now the dominant force. The body's own healing process is finally unleashed.
So this is the crucial point. By fixing the conversation between the heart and the brain, you fix the immune response. You're basically telling the brain to take a breath, calm down, and send in the right team for the job. It's just an incredible example of how interconnected all our body's systems truly are.
And the clinical results are what really matter. We're talking about less inflammation, smaller scars on the heart, which means less permanent damage, a stronger heart muscle, and crucially, fewer of those dangerous, life-threatening heart rhythm problems that can happen after a heart attack.
And this chart just drives that last point home. Look at the difference in arrhythmias, or irregular heartbeats. By fixing these nerve signals, you can calm the electrical chaos in the heart and restore a stable, healthy rhythm. It just makes the heart so much safer.
This quote really says it all. A myocardial infarction, a heart attack, isn't just a heart disorder. It's a brain-heart immune disorder. It's a system-wide communication breakdown.
So what is the bottom line here? The big takeaway is that the conversation happening between our brain and our heart is absolutely critical. And by learning to listen to, understand, and even change that internal conversation, we can turn a vicious cycle of destruction into a powerful process for healing.
And this research is honestly just the beginning. It really makes you wonder, if we can fix the miscommunications that cause so much damage after a heart attack, what else could we fix? Could we apply this same idea to autoimmune diseases, to neurodegenerative disorders? The possibilities are just immense, and it feels like we are just starting to scratch the surface.